Quem são os Anônimos?
A coisa tá ficando russa. Muita patrulha, muita bagunça. E o muro começou a pichar. Deste homem uma, e a tão lá, lá. Cada vez mais down no high society. Down, down, 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 down.
Essa canção não vai tocar no rádio e nem na televisão. Fez essa canção porque ela é cantada por nós. Somos anônimos. Nós somos legião.
Ei, querida, cheguei!
Oi, querido. A janta está quase pronta.
Porra, cadê o Wi-Fi?
Governo confirma que limitará dados na banda larga fixa neste ano.
O ministro da Ciência, Tecnologia, Inovações e Comunicações, Gilberto Kassab, confirmou que o governo federal vai permitir que as operadoras de internet banda larga fixa passem a partir do segundo semestre deste ano a impor limites de dados para os otários dos assinantes.
Por que você não pergunta pro seu amiguinho aqui, o Julian Assange?
Against its own people, and against people internationally. It will commit many grave errors, and it will commit a lot of crimes intentionally. It always has. Because ultimately it represents the dominant organized factions of US society, which is its biggest multinational companies. The question is, what type of symbol is there that represents this phenomenon? Okay. With Rex Tillerson at the helm of the State Department, a critique you're just engaging in this type of foreign policy for your oil companies suddenly is very easy to make. It was harder when when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. A critique that any aspect of this new Trump administration is engaged in crony capitalism, doing dodgy deals for friends, just serving the interests of the billionaire class is a very easy critique to make. But if we go back and look at the Obama cabinet, there are nearly all tens of millionaires in the Obama cabinet. Okay, there's billionaires in the Trump cabinet, but there are tens of millionaires in the Obama cabinet. So I'm not sure things are so different, and in some ways, rhetorically, the situation is a lot easier. Additionally, Trump has destabilized what was a increasing consolidation of neoliberal power under the Obama administration heading into the Clinton. So that consolidation has been disturbed, and a new patronage group is trying to emerge, is trying to be born in that Trump cabinet. But it has a lot of enemies. It has most of the press, for example, in the United States as its enemy. It has that existing patronage structure under Barack Obama that has to somehow find a new path to swap over. So it has destabilized the existing power networks. Trump has put a lot of people who are billionaires and who are quite strong characters in that cabinet. Why do people become billionaires? part of the reason they become billionaires, they don't want to work for anyone else. Will people with that mindset, will they work for Donald Trump? It's a very interesting question. So at the moment you have a loose structure of independent, for the most part, personalities within this Trump cabinet. Over time, some will be ejected and others will start to cohere into a solid power structure. But for quite a while, maybe a year or two, there's a lot of opportunities to change the perception of what the US government does and to get some real change out of this in some areas. For example, US foreign policy. It's clear there's going to be changes, some for the worse, some for the better. So I wouldn't, yes, there will be all sorts of crimes committed by a Trump government. There definitely would have been the same sorts of crimes, for the most part, committed under a Hillary Clinton government. But the process is a lot more visible under Trump government, and the domestic criticism within the United States will be a lot more intense. Let's imagine that there's another attempted war for oil somewhere. Okay. Well, who will oppose it internationally? Well, if you look at the structure of European society, for the most part, it will be a lot easier to get up a criticism from Europe against such a US-backed war than if Hillary Clinton was conducting the war. So if you are a victim country, you can get international support more easily if the Trump administration is trying to take over your country for the purposes of oil than if the Clinton administration was doing so. Similarly, domestically, you might want to gain domestic opposition to such a war. Well, the New York Times and so on, they are, for a variety of reasons, they are offside with the Trump administration. So is CNN. So 4 of the 5 major media conglomerates in the United States. We'll see if they do some deal down the track, but at the moment the majority are campaigning against the Trump administration. So it's easier to get domestic resistance to such a policy. Then there is an isolationist strand within this new Trump cabinet. Now, probably that isolationist strand will decay over time. Probably the CIA and the military-industrial complex will start to get to it. Exxon and Chevron and other countries, other big companies with interests overseas will demand, no, please do this. The arms companies will say, we need to boost our arms sales. People need to see our fighter jet bombing something, otherwise they won't buy it. So over time that will happen. But for the moment it is very easy to get up a critique inside the United States and outside the United States for anything seriously dangerous that Trump administration does. So it's not all bad. If I may summarize, it is if you were a farmer, it is easier when the wolf does not have the cover of the sheep.
Que evidências Wikileaks tem do envolvimento internacional na derrubada da presidente Dilma Rousseff no Brasil?
We haven't published any direct. We've published quite a lot about the players involved, how they behave historically, including President Temer and a number of people in his cabinet. Most of those come from their dealings with the US Embassy, going into the US Embassy and briefing the US Embassy, trying to lobby the US Embassy to support one party or another, one policy or another.
Na sua opinião, o que houve no Brasil foi um processo de impeachment ou golpe de Estado século XXI?
It's somewhere between the two, right? It's a constitutional coup, or political coup is what you would call it.
Existe alguma evidência concreta do que é que a Agência Nacional de Segurança...
Interestingly, I just pause for a moment. There's, in Australia, which is my home country, there is a forgotten coup of a very similar type to what has happened with Dilma and Temer in Brazil. That happened in 1975, and quite a similar process where there was a Labour government, a left-ish government that was in power for 2 years, hadn't been in power for quite some time before, and the business sector and the intelligence sector, aligned with the United States and Great Britain, got together and used a constitutional trick to overthrow the government and install the opposition.
À luz do que o Wikileaks tornou público, é possível identificar exatamente o que a Agência Nacional de Segurança dos Estados Unidos pretendia ao fazer espionagem e gravação de telefones no Brasil?
Our publications, Bugging Brazil, we published not simply that the NSA was spying on this company or this person, but rather the full chain of targeting. So that is what basis there is for the collection activity. So if you think about it, the National Security Agency, they don't decide policy. The US National Security Agency, it does the spying. It hacks into satellites, it puts bugs on fiber optic cables, etc. So it's operational and not at the policy level. The policy level is what is now the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence. And so it sets overall priorities about what the United States wants to gather. And then that is pushed out to the National Security Agency, to the CIA, to the National Reconnaissance Office, etc., and pulls that information back. So in our publications you can see that one particular cabinet minister or Petrobras or the president is targeted for economic reasons or for political reasons, because those are the reasons listed in terms of their assignments. So for Brazil it is a mixture. There's a mixture between political affairs, understanding the politics of Brazil, which way it wants to head, who it likes, who it doesn't like, and understanding Brazil's economy.
Is there evidence concerning who were the informants? And there you can see there's a conversation that we printed that WikiLeaks leaked about Vice President Temer.
Well, in this publication, Bugging Brazil, we detail the telephone numbers, the information need. This is the policy directive of the United States, why they want the information, and this information need explainer, which is a summary of why they want the information. So this is spy on Dilma for political reasons, political president's office, many presidential secretaries, etc. You can see it's for political reasons, this for understanding the finance and developments in finance across different countries. So there's a mixture, and occasionally for military purposes, so spying on the Brazilian military. But everyone knows that's what intelligence agencies do. What is interesting about this is the degree of political and economic and financial targeting. I mean, it's not just a small part of the activity. In fact, if you break down the budgets of the National Security Agency, it is about 50% of all its activity is to understand where a country or a president or a cabinet is heading politically and financially, so the United States can react to steer it in a particular direction, including in relation to its major energy companies.
Hoje eu larguei no meu Face e o Obama viu que eu postei. Entrei no Orkut e desbloqueei e vi o inbox da CIA. Hello, hello, hello Obama. Hello, hello, hello Obama. Hello, hello, hello Obama. Hello, hello, hello. O Obama vem e-mail, espiona meu e-mail. Tá no Google, Hotmail, vem YouTube, vem Gmail, Candy Crush, Google Earth, tá no iPhone, no Twitter, yeah! Ontem a Dilma foi na Lan House, Obama viu lá da White House que a arma química do Brasil é o Lula entornando o barril. Hello, hello, hello Obama. Hello, hello, hello Obama. Hello, hello, hello Obama. Hello, hello, hello. O Obama vem e-mail, espiona meu e-mail. Tá no Google, Hotmail, vem YouTube, vem Gmail, Candy Crush, Google Earth, tá no iPhone, no Twitter. Oi Obama, oi Obama, oi Obama, oi Obama, oi Obama.
O seu amiguinho, presidente do Uruguai, estava usando a internet para baixar pornô vietnamita de novo.
Pornografia vietnamita é muito importante para vazar informações codificadas da CIA, fique você sabendo, viu? Ok. Era só a pornografia vietnamita normal mesmo.
Você ainda está se perguntando quem são os anônimos?
Anônimo é você. Anônimo sou eu. Nós somos anônimos. Nós somos legião. Nós não esquecemos. Nós não perdoamos. Espere por nós.